Now, in the last video, we had a look at hiding columns from client tools. Now, there is a more formalized way of doing it, but it's of more use in SSAS than Excel or Power Pivot, and I'll show you why later, but the method of doing it is the same. Now, what Perspectives does is hide things. So, for instance, I could create a fairly complicated model, but then say, well, I only want the accounting team to have the invoices table and any relevant lookups. I only want the marketing team to have these columns which summarize the data, and I want senior management to have these particular sets of columns because they will want the full picture but not at great depth. So we can do that with perspectives. So model perspectives, create and manage. So let's create a new perspective, and you can see what it says at the top. So my perspective is going to be English. That's the name of the perspective. And you can see right at the top we can delete, we can rename it, and we can copy it into a second perspective. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select every single table by checking or clicking in this first one, and then I'm going to get rid of everything which does not have English, or it has another language, so Arabic, Chinese, and so forth. So I'm just going to do a little amount of clicking. That'll get rid of Spanish as well, and Thai, and Turkish. And we do that for several tables. Now you might also be going, okay, I also don't want them to see other columns, and that's absolutely fine. I mean, for instance, there's a lot of these keys that they don't need to see. So for instance, you could, in these two, this category and the subcategory, I'm actually going to deselect everything apart from the English subname. And then I'm going to copy this and rename this French. So I'm going to deselect the English and select the French. Right, there we go. So I've created two new perspectives. So now I'm going to analyze this in Excel, but I'm going to not analyze it as the default, which I can still do, but I'm going to analyze it as English. The perspective English. So this comes up, and if I scroll down, you'll see that in the product categories and subcategories, all I've got left are the English. So I'll put in sum of sales amount. There we go. So it reduces the amount of stuff you can have to get through. You can still see, in fact, internet sales, or the table internet sales, there's still a lot of stuff, and you can easily reduce the amount that the end user needs to see. So then I can go in and have a perspective of French, and no prizes for guessing what you can see. No, seriously, there were no prizes. There we go. So instead of accessories, we have accessoires. My French is really bad. I'm not going there. So this is another good way of, instead of just, I don't want everybody to not see this, which you can still do, is I want certain things to be shown. And you can see what's being shown in your model over here. You can select what perspective you want to show. So perspectives, really good way of just honing down what it is you want to see. And you can see it's only one dialog box, create and manage. All the rest is just I want to view, which is identical to here as any case. Okay, so that's SSAS. Why am I not touting it for Excel? It sounds great. And if you go into the Advanced tab, we have perspectives. So create and manage. So I'm going to create my English perspective, and I'm just going into these two categories and subcategories tables and deselecting everything which are not the English. Great. So now I want to create my table, my pivot table, based on the English perspective. And how do I do that exactly? No dialog box came up. Can't see the word perspective here. Can't see it here. No, it's not there either. And that's the problem. If you're using it from Power Pivot into Excel, sorry, there's no way you can actually say, I want to view this data as this particular perspective. It would be really nice if you could. It shouldn't be difficult. But there's no way that you can actually say, I want a pivot table based on this particular perspective. Now, this wasn't always the case. In Excel 2010, you can see right at the top that there is a perspectives drop-down switch. And this website's, for instance, saying great. And then Excel 2013 came along. Perspectives unfortunately no longer appear in the field list. You can still view it in the diagram view, but if the Excel model is exported to elsewhere, in Tabular service, so SSAS, then you can still do the perspectives. How annoying. So if you like the idea of perspectives, if you want them to work, it seems you've got two choices. Either load it into a cube using SSAS Tabular, or load it onto SharePoint. But I'm afraid for most of us, using Excel, Power Pivot, perspectives, don't bother. Used to be in, no longer.